All right, everyone. People are talking about, oh, we need to impeach Trump because he fired Comey, or we need to impeach Trump because of Russia, or anything else. Now, first, can I point out something here? You can either draw up impeachment against him without proper evidence before any investigation has even included, or you can actually wait for those to happen and have potential grounds for impeachment if you really believe there's collusion between Trump and Russia. You can't do both. You can't expect to impeach the President of the United States on the mere suspicion held by some people within the country, some media firms and politicians, that maybe something untoward happened. It's just not possible. The charges won't stick. Nobody's going to vote to actually force him out of office, even if you successfully impeach him, and it's not clear you're going to be able to do that because the Democrats don't hold the House or the Senate. They don't have power. They seem to have forgotten this fact. But I'd like to pose a true dichotomy to replace all the false dichotomies being spun right now by the media. You know, left versus right, you know, blue versus red, and that sort of crap. And always, if you want to analyze politics accurately, you have to ignore any false dichotomy and try to come up with true dichotomies. You'll never get this from the corporate media. It can be difficult for people to do because they've been so fooled by propaganda. Here's the only dichotomy here that matters. Is Trump controlled opposition, or is he actually a maverick? That's all you have to ask yourself. In either scenario, I don't see him being impeached. If he's controlled opposition, then all these people pretending to be like hardline, oh, Trump did something wrong, it's just political theater. That's all it is. It's a Shakespearean show for the little people, for the peasants, in which case there's no reason for them to impeach him. Trump is an egotist. He's a contract man. He would not have entered into such a compact with any existing deep state. If there really is some sort of like oligarchic conspiracy to enslave us all, or some JFK mode or something, Trump wouldn't have entered into such an agreement if it was going to cast him as a miserable failure. It's just not his MO. You can look back at half a century of Trump and you'll never find him attempting to do such a thing. So that sort of flies out of the window. If he's just controlled opposition, there'd be no reason for them to let him go, cut him loose. If he's a true maverick, it means that he managed to hold out against any extant deep state, pulled the wool over their eyes, and apparently amalgamated an alliance of some sort, who knows what form it would take behind the scenes, and outmaneuver them at every possible opportunity from the beginning of the primaries and even before, all the way up into now, within his actual presidency. If that's the case, then they're probably powerless to stop him. In that case, you could claim, oh yeah, because he's a secret fascist, he and Bannon and these people are actual Nazis trying to take over, like the spawn of Operation Paperclip. Or you could say, no, he's trying to drain the swamp, he's pure Americana and he actually cares. Or you can say, oh, he's just trying to enrich himself, he's in bed with some Russian oligarchs and they're like throwing stacks of $100 bills around all day. It doesn't really matter. If he has that capability, if he's actually a rogue, actually a maverick, and not controlled opposition, he's an extremely skilled individual who has managed to take over the highest rung of our government, and he's doing so at the expense of people who actually oppose him, who may be powerless to stop him. Additionally, look at the claim that I mentioned yesterday regarding Comey telling him he wasn't under investigation on 3 occasions. That matters even more, actually, than I originally estimated upon further thought. There's something else there that matters. Either Comey was lying to the President of the United States, he is or was under investigation, and Trump is correct when he says that he was the target of surveillance a la Obama, in which case Obama's the one that's screwed. The Clintons of the political world are the ones that are screwed, and Trump gets off scot-free because it turns out his biggest, most conspiratorial claim was actually correct. In which case, I have to venture a guess that nobody who's who's not a Democratic partisan or thinks he's Hitler would actually be defending those that conducted such a thing on him. Or Comey was telling the truth, and the media was probably lying through its nose because it was getting info from a bunch of people who are Democratic partisans who are feeding them false info. It makes the media look totally fucking goofy. And it means that at least a few individuals on the so-called left within our political spectrum were openly attempting to promulgate yellow journalism in order to take down a sitting presidential figure. Either way, I don't see bad things here for Trump. I realize some people, including those that like Trump, are acting as though this is the end of the world. It's within Trump's capability to fire the acting director of the FBI. By the way, the deputy director of the FBI is also an Obama individual. He's got ties to Terry McAuliffe, of all people, from Virginia. So, you know, it's not like he did himself a terribly huge favor as far as the FBI's own investigations would go. The person who's now the acting head of the FBI is still presumably not, you know, aboard with Trump, regardless, again, of whether he's sort of insider acting like outsider or a true outsider. It wouldn't even matter. Again, Trump is a lifelong elbow rubber with Democrats. And so either you have to assume that they're really, really butthurt right now, they've turned on him, or this is political theater, and it doesn't matter. The idea that this is unprecedented, especially the idea that this has something in common with Watergate, I think is the funniest of all. It doesn't matter if grand jury subpoenas were handed out. If the director of the FBI has burned all bridges with his ability to connect with the public, with the press, and everybody else under the sun, what is Trump supposed to motherfucking do? What's he supposed to do? Keep him on there for fear of looking bad? It's just a routine firing. Comey went up and gave testimony regarding Huma Abedin that was patently false. What else is supposed to be done about Comey other than fire him? Nothing. There's nothing else to do. Trump might not even be concerned with the investigation. If Trump knows that he doesn't have connections, dubious connections with Russia, why would he friggin' care if there's an investigation? It wouldn't be he was firing him to stop such a thing. It would be he was firing him for routine reasons. The next day comes out. Trump's going to meet with, I think it's a foreign minister or something of Russia, Lavrov or whatever his name is. And I saw several posts about this, and they're like, oh, well, Trump is a true egomaniac. He's totally off kilter because now he's meeting with the Russians. What, he's not supposed to conduct diplomacy? If he wasn't meeting with foreign leaders and dignitaries and ambassadors and all these people from other states, you'd say he was reluctant to fill his job qualifications, that he wasn't doing the right thing. Trump has gotten into a situation where there are those who have literally convinced himself that he's a fascist. They've convinced themselves that he's a fascist, he's Hitler, he's evil. And so anything that he can possibly do, regardless of what form it takes, if he were to take pages out of the DNC's playbook, suddenly begin pushing for universal health care and universal pre-K coverage in education and free college and like overhauls to expanded affirmative action, they'd still would hate him for it. It wouldn't matter. He could go further left than Bernie Sanders, say, okay, we're going to be like literal socialists now. I've come to the conclusion that it's best. We're going to make America great again with socialism. They wouldn't even like the idea. They'd find something to complain about. Sometimes I wonder if these individuals are corrupt so much as deluded. Some of these people, they're just so fucking far off the mark. They're so unintelligent in their analysis that they've actually convinced themselves that the President of the United States is Hitler. Now, if you actually believe in the integrity of the intelligence agencies and the Secret Service and all these other bureaus that the left supposedly loves, wouldn't you think they would prevent that from happening? And if he's so powerful, if he's so monumentally capable in all aspects of propaganda and political maneuvering, that he's able to override it anyway, then what the hell do you think an independent investigation is going to do to him? Nothing. Special prosecutor won't find diddly squat because it shows he's a fucking genius. You're not going to find shit. If Hillary Clinton, who, you know, look at her campaign and then match her maneuvering with Trump's, and she's clearly at a disadvantage, if she can get off scot-free on 3 different friggin' occasions, then what hope do you have with whoever Trump himself appoints to head the FBI? Special prosecutor aside, go ahead, mount a special prosecutor. Issue all the subpoenas you want. This so-called investigation has dragged on for months and found nothing. It found that Michael Flynn was corrupt, that Obama didn't like him, and he was a problematic individual. Okay, Michael Flynn's gone. He got fired too. He's out. Gorka's out. You didn't like him either. Trump is almost bending over backwards to appease people who are simply concerned about the people that Trump surrounds himself with, and he shouldn't even bother doing that, honestly. Because he's never going to get brownie points from his adversaries unless it's just political theater anyway. He's never going to get brownie points from them for actually letting go of people that they pretend to be enraged by. They're not even enraged by them, even if they do dislike Trump and his policies. It's just part of it is inevitably going to be just political theater. It's hyperbole. It's the way that DC works. So no, I don't see Trump getting impeached because he fires James Comey. It's like the acting director of the FBI is still presumably anti-Trump anyway. He's going to continue with any investigation that's ongoing. He'll be fully empowered to do so. But when Comey gives false testimony, when he pisses off the right on the Clinton issue, pisses off the left on the same issue, and is generally the whipping boy of all of DC, how can he function? How can he carry out the duties of the job description? He can't. It was inevitable he was going to be let go of at some point. I don't think this takes Trump down. I know a lot of people want to act like it's the next Watergate. If you think that this has anything in connection with Watergate, then you don't know anything about Watergate. You probably haven't studied that period in U.S. political history. A lot of these people are weighing in, are too young to witness it themselves, so they would have had to have read about it in second-hand accounts. No, instead they just read the New York Times headline, oh, Watergate 2.0 or something like that. They assume that it's true. Well, it's not. It doesn't have anything in common with it. I would be extremely surprised if Trump suffered any repercussions for this. Could be I turn out to be wrong, but I'm going to hedge my bets on Trump escapes unscathed. Now, how would Trump get impeached? He will get impeached if and only if he pisses off his core fans. Like he swings further to the left than he already has on a few issues. Like he says, okay, I no longer believe we need a border wall. Yeah, illegal immigration is actually really good for our nation. I'm going to go back and sign the TPP and fuck redoing NAFTA. We're going to keep that intact. And by the way, I've invited the Mexican president up here with his family for a weekend of golf at Mar-a-Lago. And I'm just going to take it easy. Screw all you people. If he were to act like a total asshat and go back on everything that he said, yeah, I'd probably get him impeached. Because those are the holdouts that actually buoy him up. He would absorb like 10 centrists and jettison 100 core supporters every time if he were to do something like that. That would drop him into the 30s or 20s. That's sort of the danger zone. He's still in the mid-40s right now as far as approval. That's not nearly low enough to impeach a president. There were plenty of people who wanted to impeach Obama. I thought he should have been impeached after the NSA revelations with Snowden, because he had clearly, he was either, not doing his duties properly, didn't know what the intelligence agency was doing, and thus was a moron, or he was corrupt, he allowed it to happen, knew it was happening, and violated several constitutional amendments in so doing. By the way, I don't give Trump a free pass. Those programs are still ongoing. He's talked a big game about reforming that situation. Now it's time to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And it's also time to let off on things like Afghanistan and Syria. People didn't elect him to be a warmonger. But to say that the firing of James Comey is going to take him down, it's nonsense, in all likelihood. If anything takes him down, it would be some other form of scandal, probably related to foreign policy. It wouldn't have anything to do with Russia. The Russia stuff was spawned by the DNC to cover its ass because it got hacked. Because John Podesta was too stupid not to take a phishing link. That's why the DNC got hacked. It probably had nothing to do with Russia. And at various times you've had more honest individuals within cybersecurity fully admit this. Yeah, anyone could have done it. Of course they could have false flagged it as Russia. It would have been convenient to do so. Cause a political firestorm. Somebody could have done it as a bad joke. That's what happened. So where's the evidence? How are you going to drop impeachment against Donald Trump without any evidence? An investigation has supposedly barely begun. It hasn't concluded yet. You don't have any evidence to go on. You can't bring somebody, you can't charge that somebody has committed treason or espionage or something like that on zero evidence. And the threshold gets far higher when you're talking about attempting to prosecute the President of the United States. A far higher threshold there. You're going to need some pretty good proof. You're not just going to need, well, Trump said this 10 years ago. This Russian hacker said that 5 months ago. That's not going to work. It's certainly not going to convince the Republicans to vote to remove him from office. If you were to actually successfully get the votes for impeachment right now, he wouldn't be removed from office. It might not even hurt him. It might backfire on you like it did the Republicans when they tried to do that to Bill Clinton. Keep that in mind. That's about all. Peace out.